gearing around the corner. This guitar is almost done and it's looking good. There are very few tools that I still need to use to finish this, but there is going to be another video after this one. So let's just crack on and see if we can't get this across the finish line ASAP. Using a piece of MDF, I've made a template to fit the heel of the neck, and I'll use that template now to make the pocket in the body where the neck will be bolted. So I have routed the shape of the neck pocket. It needs to be a bit deeper still, that's okay. The corners were round because the bit of the router is round, so I used a chisel, that's the next thing you need, to cut down in the corners and make them nice and square like the corners of my neck. Pressing on, you're going to need a drill press, which you've already seen, to start off the cavity for the tremolo. If you're using a tremolo, you might not, in which case this will be redundant. I've used a template as the stencil, and now let's go and drill that out. So I have used my Forstner bit and then my router on both sides of the body, front and back, using some templates, which are kind of not the point of this video, so I didn't record those. And now I've done the routing for the tremolo. That's the bridge, the tremolo that I'm going to be using, and I'll say more about that later. I love that. It's a Wilkinson tremolo. I was just trying it in for size, and it's perfect, which is great. Okay, I am making a pick guard. Your guitar might not have a pick guard. Lots of guitars don't, but mine does. Took a piece of pickguard material and cut it out on the bandsaw after drawing the outline on it, and now I'm going to trim it to the exact size and shape. I thought about the best way of doing this because for your benefit I'm trying to use not too many tools, and so I considered perhaps doing it with a handheld router. That might be doable, but it really is best. You will get the best results and find it easiest if you use a table router, or mine, I suppose, is a benchtop router. So that's what I'm going to do. So that could be called a chamfer bit or just a bevel bit, and it also trims because you can see it's got that bearing there, but it doesn't cut the edge straight. It cuts it with an angle, so you'll be able to see a cross section of whatever is inside that material. In this case, there's a stripe running through the middle of it, and that will look quite good. I'll show you. Okay, so it looks like a bit of a mess now because that protective plastic layer is still on there and it's all fluffy around the edges. But you can see what I mean, right? You can see that cross-section of those three layers with the black one in the middle. That's a bit blurry. There we go. And that looks neat. Okay, let's go about positioning this on the body and then deciding where to put the holes for the pickups. Quite a mess, but that's unavoidable, really. So what have I done so far but not actually shown you the whole process? I've removed the wood from these cavities for the controls, pickups and jack, mostly using a Forstner bit on the drill press and then tidying it up with my router. I used the drill for a few things like a wiring channel in there, but these are not tools that you haven't seen already, which is why I haven't included the footage, because the purpose of this series is meant to show you all the tools that you need, and you've already seen those tools. So with that said, I'm just going to mock this up. It's looking pretty good. Let's move on and just deal with the rest of the work on the neck for now. Carving the neck is possibly the most enjoyable part of building a guitar, maybe. And one of the reasons I think I enjoy it is that I see such instant results. There are quite a few different tools that you could use to carve the back of your guitar neck, I'm going to focus on just two, which I think are really, well, number one, really effective, but also really satisfying to use. And that's a Shinto Saw File and a spoke shave. Now, one thing I've done already is I've measured the thickness that I want down here, and that's just over 18 millimeters. And the thickness that I want here, and that's just under, goodness, lightning maybe? We'll see. Just under 20 millimeters. And now I'm going to use the saw file to thin the neck to those dimensions. And then I'm going to use these tools to gradually grade the thickness from there to there. There isn't that much difference. Like, it's not a huge gradient, but there is a slight one. So that's how the spoke shave works. You just draw it towards you. It takes a bit of practice. Like when I first did it, it was quite jittery and I had to set it up properly. And the Shinto Saw File is very popular among guitar builders, and there's a good reason for that. I've had mine for years now, and it's starting to get a little bit blunt. I should get a new one. It's basically a whole lot of saw blades joined together to make this crisscross pattern, and it removes wood quickly. And so that's how that works. I'm just going to continue shaping this neck using these two tools. I won't go through all the techniques that I use, because my point is just to tell you which tools I'm using, and I'll bring you back in when I get to the next tool. Here's a really useful, I was going to say file, it's kind of a rasp, I guess. It's really rough. This is a cheap Chinese knockoff version. At least I assume it's meant to be a knockoff of what's called a dragon file. And dragon files are very popular with guitar luthiers, specifically because of how useful they are when carving the concave curves on the neck. That is, the curves just before the heel there, and also the curves that I'm going to put in around the volute. This tool is incredibly handy. So those are basically the tools that I use for carving the neck. Shinto Saw File, you could do most of this just with the Shinto Saw File. Spoke shave, possibly a luxury item, but I really like it, and they're not expensive and they're fun to use. And I also use a, I don't know what that's called, a Pointy Rasp. I got that cheap. I got that cheap from China on eBay. You can get more expensive ones. And any other general rasps and files that you like using, along with basic tools like a random orbital sander. You'll notice that something rather obvious has changed. The customer got in touch with me and said that he wanted to go with a pickguard that looked more like a Fender Stratocaster pickguard. So that's what I've made. It looks broadly like one. It's immediately recognizable, but there are some differences. The curves here are a bit different. The shape here is different, and the overall length is different. The main reason I had to make that change is the part of the pickguard here needed to be changed, and that's because Fender necks on a Stratocaster guitar anyway, whether the guitar has 21 frets or 22 frets, all the necks are the same. The necks are the length of a 21 fret neck. And then if they add a 22nd fret, what they do is they keep the neck the same, but the fretboard overhangs the end of the neck slightly. Well, I don't do that. I don't like it at all. Lots of other manufacturers don't do it, but basically I had to make this part of the fretboard, the pickguard slightly different, which then changes down to the other end, and there we are. But it looks similar, obviously. The plastic protective film is still on there just now, and I'm just deciding where the controls will sit. the most important thing initially in my mind was whether or not the routing that I had done would be compatible with the new pickguard, but obviously it is, which is good. I'm finishing this guitar body with Danish oil, which is a mixture of wood oil. I don't know what kind, actually, I haven't checked. I don't know whether it's linseed oil or something else. Are there ingredients listed? I don't think so. Oh, tung oil, there we are. It's basically a mixture of tung oil and polyurethane. So I messed up that slot for the switch in the pickguard with that rotary tool. I forget if I told you that or not, but I did mess it up. So I've come up with another way of doing this, and that is with a very narrow, a 2mm, I don't know what that would be in imperial, a 2mm router bit, which I've got all set up here with pieces of wood clamped down to control the movement. It'd be a bit difficult for me to show you me performing this route, so I'll just do it and then show you the result and hope for the best. So I've just done the route. Let's take a look. Oh, I've got to be happy with that. That looks great. Hopefully it's the right size, but I'm pretty sure it is. I'll compare it with the previous one which I messed up, but which was the right length. Yeah. Okay, happy with that? Good. Now, there is a slight break. If you're waiting for this video to come out and wondering why it's taking so long, I discovered that I messed something up, which can be totally fixed, but it's going to take time. I misunderstood the information on the template for the tremolo. The line that was just the center line in the routing block in the routing shape for the tremolo block. I, for some reason, thought that it was the scale line, and it wasn't. So as a result, the tremolo block cavity was routed in slightly the wrong place. After doing some testing, I've discovered that I can replace this neck. This neck is perfect. I'll use it on another guitar, but I can replace that neck with a 24 fret neck based on a scale length of 24 3/4 inches. So just changing things around slightly. Maybe metal with that pocket, maybe not, we'll see. But that will make the bridge in the right place. It's easier to make a new neck than it is to try to relocate that considerable route that I've already done. So that's fine. I'm going to make a new neck. I won't go over the process of making it because I've already made a neck. Then we will finish this guitar.